President Trump is pulling the nomination of David Weldon, his pick to lead the CDC. Sources are telling CNN that both President Trump and Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. had concerns about Weldon's questioning of vaccines. Let's go live right now to CNN medical correspondent Meg Terrell. Meg, you have some new reporting about the pressure Weldon was facing. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Dave Weldon, of course, is a physician. He served in Congress for 14 years, leaving Congress in 2009 and was practicing as a physician down in Florida. And while he was in Congress, he made comments and he pressed for safety investigations into vaccines that scientists say were unfounded. And those claims were surfacing even in the weeks leading up to this confirmation hearing scheduled today. We heard from Senator Patty Murray, who is on the Senate Health Committee, which was the one that was holding that hearing this morning, that in her meeting last month with Dr. Weldon, that she says, made debunked claims about vaccines. She said, quote, "It's dangerous to put someone in charge at CDC who believes the lie that our rigorously tested childhood vaccine schedule is somehow exposing kids to toxic levels of mercury or causing autism." We reached out to Weldon and heard back from him late last night. This is about the ingredient that had been in vaccines called thimerosal. He said, quote, "I never said thimerosal was the cause of the rising levels of autism, but at the time," he says, "I was concerned that it could be." He says after the thimerosal was removed, autism rates did not come down, but continued to rise, convincing me that it was not the cause. However, clearly, the comments that he's made are catching up to him and caused the pulling of this nomination at a time when we have a measles outbreak growing in Texas, and the health secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who our colleague Elena Treen has reported even had doubts himself about this nomination. He has been putting mixed messages out there about vaccinations. Wolf.
If that hearing would have taken place, it would have been very lively indeed. Meg, stand by. I want to bring in our White House reporter, Elena Treen, over at the White House for us. Elena, what more are you learning about what went into President Trump's decision to pull this nomination?
Well, in my conversations with Trump administration officials, they told me essentially that they recognize that Weldon was likely not going to get the votes for all of the reasons that Meg just laid out, particularly, though, their concerns with some of his public comments on vaccines. And as Meg mentioned, even RFK Jr., Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the Director of Health and Human Services, had concerns about his chances in his confirmation. So, look, we knew that today he was expected to appear before the Senate committee, and then this nomination was withdrawn before he could do that. They moved on with other nominations, but a big question now is who would replace him to lead the CDC. Obviously a very important role, particularly when you think back to when Trump was first in office and all of the major role that played in helping steer away the coronavirus pandemic, excuse me. But one thing too, Wolf, to keep in mind is that something that I heard when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was going through his own confirmation hearing was that many Republicans, skeptical Republicans, people who have raised concerns about his chances of getting confirmed, said that if he was confirmed, they wanted to make sure people in roles around him had a better answer for some of the vaccines. And that was a big concern when he was going through his confirmation process, and clearly something that played a role this time around with Weldon's.
Yeah, good point. Elena Treen at the White House, Meg Terrell. Thanks to both of you very much. Joining us now, Dr. Paul Offit. He heads the Vaccine Education Center at the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. He's also on the FDA Vaccine Advisory Committee. Dr. Offit, thanks so much for joining us. What's your reaction to the White House decision to pull Dr. Weldon's nomination?
I'm having trouble understanding the reasoning why. I mean, here you have Dave Weldon and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. both believe that the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine causes autism. They both believe that thimerosal, this ethyl mercury containing preservative in vaccines, causes autism. They're both anti-vaccine activists. They're both science denialists. And look what happens when you have an anti-vaccine activist as head of Health and Human Services. You have an outbreak now in West Texas. It spilled over to New Mexico, that spilled over to Oklahoma. And what does RFK Jr. do? He talks about how measles vaccine kills children every year. This is what he said just in the last couple of days. He says that measles vaccine causes brain swelling associated with deafness and blindness, and that immunity fades with the measles vaccine so that adults are now susceptible. He just says one falsehood after the next. The outbreak continues to grow. What is the difference between RFK Jr. and Dave Weldon? They both seem to be of the same ilk. Why is one okay and the other not?
You know, Dr. Offit, back in 2016, Weldon appeared in an anti-vaccine movie, and we got a clip of that. I want to play a portion of that. Watch this.
It was a rush to judgment to shut the door permanently and completely on the MMR autism link. It's absolutely appalling that much of what I said turned out exactly to be true. They were trying to short circuit the research.
That's a false claim that vaccines cause autism, and it's certainly been widely debunked by scientists and doctors across the country. You work extensively with vaccines in children. What goes through your mind when you hear something like that?
No, it's so hard to watch. I mean, the notion that the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine causes autism was born in 1998. And reasonably, the academic and medical community responded by doing the kinds of studies to answer the question, were you at greater risk of getting autism if you've gotten the vaccine or not? That study has been done over and over again in 7 countries on 3 continents. There's been at least 15 studies that have shown the same thing. You're not at greater risk. Why in 2016, after many of those studies had been completed, Dave Weldon didn't believe it is something I don't understand. And why Robert F. Kennedy Jr. continues not to believe it. As he said during his confirmation hearings, he refused to say that vaccines don't cause autism and now wants to do yet another study looking at whether or not they do, which is just a waste of money and an administration, presumably, that's trying to save money.
Who do you think President Trump might pick now, Dr. Offit?
Wouldn't it be nice if he picked somebody who actually could run a public health agency? I mean, there's a lot of great people out there who could do such a thing, who have a medical or scientific background, who could run that agency well. Instead, we get these people who, for the most part, have disdain for the agencies they're running, whether it's the FDA or NIH or CDC or HHS.
It would be good if he picked someone who had some experience in the CDC and NIH and these other critically important agencies. Dr. Paul Offit, as usual, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.